Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Chronologically Gaming pre-show, where you can get any questions in, answered live, or you can just chat about what games you're playing now. We do play every video game in order of release. We've been doing it since 1971, and we are currently in December 1982. And if every video game wasn't played the first time around, we are doing what we call the backlog, where we're going and playing the games that we missed the first time around, so we're caught up on every single video game before we get to 1983. Welcome in, everyone, and good evening. Howdy, Brad. That's right, Paul. We hope. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some people that discover games after we've done the backlog, and there's even more games that are found, and everyone's going to always have some games that are missed. In fact, one of the first times I started the show, someone left one of the first comments I ever got was, "You're not really playing every video game." Well, duh. No one wants to see every single casino gambling game or every slot machine game. It would get a little boring. Or I guess maybe we could say, there's the game, and then we move on to the next one, and we give the game two seconds of airtime. Something like that. Hey, thanks, Marshall. Good. That's another reason I do the pre-show, so we never have an audio problem again. If everyone can hear me now, hopefully someone will say, okay, your mic's off, or your mic has a tweak or something like that. Hey, Mike's here too. Welcome in. Good afternoon, good evening. Not good night yet. We have games to play. All over the world, every system that we can play. We do have a very fun special treat on the backlog this week, where we're playing a computer we did not play the first time around. Hey, good evening, Brian. And that's right, Paul is correct. There are a lot of games that they're obscure for a reason. But since I've done the show, I have dug into the trenches and played a lot of games that I was surprised that they are the way they are. They're actually pretty cool. Awesome, thanks. Yeah, should be coming through pretty smooth, at least video what? Yeah, keep it coming, pal Puck. What was that you say? You're not coming in clear. I can't hear you. I think we're all right. I'm seeing the audio coming on my side as well. Man, but after the computer breakage and things like that, it's almost like it was inevitable. We had video games that wouldn't load or boot. We had all kinds of emulation problems with games in the past. And so now to have my actual computer crash, yeah, it seemed inevitable, right? Oh yeah, Mike. The obscure stuff is the cool stuff. That's one reason, if you're watching the show, why you're here. Yep, you bet, Brad. Yeah, there are channels that they pick either a system or a certain computer that they love the best. PC, MS-DOS games, let's play all those. Or they'll say, sometimes people want to do chronological too and play all the Nintendo games in order of release, things like that. But this is the only show, at least to my knowledge, that's trying to capture and see every single game in order of release. So as we come across games, that's why I'm giving as much stats as possible or notes as possible, just because if someone looks up a game that they've seen and knew about for a long time and they come across my show and watch us play this game, it's going to come from a context that's never been seen before, where I'll state, we've already seen 4 or 5 games that are like this, and then this is the 1000th or something game that's played or been similar to this. It's been so much fun. And text games. As video games, yeah. Marshall, you bring up Hangman on. Oh man, that's a deep cut. There's so many games that genres of games people don't even consider video games, like the type-in games from catalogs or magazines. Those don't count as video games. They're not true commercial releases. What really is a video game then? We're diving into the psychological side of it. Yes, rebooting computers that people don't appreciate your footprints on the equipment. Ah, yes. You bet, Paul. Mike, I don't even know what the show would be like if AVGN was here. If James Rolfe did this show. Well, actually, I invite him on. I try to invite people to play the games with me, at least remotely, over the interwebs. But it would be a different show. It would be a lot more swearing, probably, if it was going to be AVGN. Imtiski's here. Good evening, Chrono. Thanks for coming on. We got a fun night. At least the games are fairly quality and not obscure. I'm sure you'll see the games that you've heard of before. We are not throwing in too much randomness this episode. And then the Jupiter Ace comes up behind me. Extremely obscure computer. That's like the Amber Pegasus from New Zealand. It's just, who knows what you're going to get. All right, it's showtime. Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. Started all the way back in 1971, we've seen and played every video game, and some people may say not everything's a video game, but where are we now? Join me in December 1982.
We do Saturday Night Live every week together, and I don't know about you, Eddie, but I perform better in front of people.
So do I. So tune in this week and watch. It's the only thing that turns this woman on.
And we were last playing Puyan on the Atari 2600, a average game, a little above average game if you were to rank it against everything else you could play on home consoles up to this point. Let's see what our next game is. We're next going to the arcade in Japan, released first here in the arcades. This is Pop Flamer. Let's check it out together. Pop Flamer is one I'm familiar with from my video game expertise in the future, but this is the first time we've seen anything like this. Here's the advertisement flyer for Pop Flamer. This is the 642nd arcade game that we've seen up to this point. So no one is saying, what's an arcade game? We've seen plenty. This one is by Jalico, and I said Japan because this is where it's released first. Jalico is the one that did this. It's the 8th time we've seen this company. And I think it says, yeah, this is the full title. It actually says Jalico. When we boot up the game, we'll get to see what the original name was before it was Jalico. 8th time we've seen this company bringing us games like Cosmos, Dark Warrior, Space Fortress, Naughty Boy, Checkman, Dazzler, and Blueprint, all we've seen in the arcades. They usually get another company to develop the game for them rather than in-house. So Jalico is more of a publisher up to this point, and that includes this game as well. It's going to be released later in 1983 by Stern Electronics, so we might see a few Stern things as we look at the advertisement flyer. This advertisement flyer, the drawing of the mouse, the cartoony style, has almost a Dig Dug flavor to it. I mean, look at a couple of the enemies, but then at the same time, it also makes me think of the computer artwork we get for boxes, where it's not a completely polished experience. Pop Flamer is one of those characters that they don't tell you what their name is, because at this point, who cares? Who cares about the story? You don't need to know who the mouse is. Just go with it and play the game and have fun, which I kind of love. You flip this over in the back, and if you can read Japanese, it'll explain a little bit more of how the game works. We're going to read the manual when it came out in North America. It has the enemy types down there, the point values. Just buy this. And there it is, Japan Leisure Company. That's where we get Jalico from, and that's what we've seen for the other titles up to this point. And there's the terrible picture of the arcade cabinet. There's really not a lot of official ones out there. This one is a reconstructed or fabrication of the arcade cabinet. But if you got a real Pop Flamer arcade cabinet, send it my way. There's the arcade PCB if you open up the arcade. Yeah, Marshall, didn't that look like Frygar from Dig Dug? It did. It really looked like a ripoff. The control panel for Pop Flamer, and there it is by Stern Electronics here. It has a 4-way joystick with 4 fingers pointing different directions, and it has the Flamer button on either side. If you do a 1-player or 2-player game, you're going to take turns hot seat arcade style. You don't get to play multiple people at the same time. So very simple style. And there's the arcade marquee. And you can see copyright 1983 when it's released by Stern Electronics. This marks the 23rd time we've seen Stern be involved with any video game up to this point, at least in North America. This is Stern's 20th arcade game that we've seen so far in the arcades. Stern's been involved with games like Armored Car, Moon War, Anteater, Tasmania, Berserk, and Frenzy, and Dark Planet, just to name a few. At home, Stern only has 3 titles we've seen that they've been involved with. Astro Invader on the Arcadia 2001 home console, and on the Atari 2600 and Vectrex is Berserk. That's all you can play. Most of these are going to be in the arcade by Stern. All right, so besides the arcade marquee, we have an example of the screenshot, but we don't need screenshots. We're just going to play the game. So here's the manual for Pop Flamer. The North American, this is the kit conversion manual. In other words, Stern's going to explain to us how to convert one arcade cabinet into another. Which one are we converting? Tell us, Stern. Looks like Strategy X. Yeah, so this explains the steps of how to do the arcade conversion. We don't do arcade conversions here on Chronologically Gaming. We just want to know how they explain this game right now in December 1982, or in this case, 1983, when it was released by Stern. There we go. The object of this game is to control the Pop Flamer to pop all the balloons on the screen. So I guess his name is Pop Flamer, the title. But he doesn't have a cool name, you know, like Winky from Venture or anything like that. Use the joystick to work the Pop Flamer through the maze, popping the balloons and avoiding various nasties on the screen. To destroy the nasties on the screen, use the flame button. This activates Pop Flamer's flamethrower. That's pretty cool, which burns up the nasties. The flamer is also used to destroy the blocking frogs that are placed at various points on the screen by the nasties. Point the Pop Flamer in the direction you wish to flame and push the flame button. You really don't need instructions for that. Fuel for the flamer is limited and is replenished by gradually popping the balloons. So pop balloons equals more flame fuel for your flamethrower. I don't think Ripley had that in Alien, but we have it now. Located at the very top and bottom of the screen is the power drink bottle. When the Pop Flamer completely drinks the power drink, he turns into an invincible Super Mouse, which we've played an arcade game called Super Mouse. For a short period of time, while a Super Mouse, all nasties on the area automatically run to the Pop Flamer for extra points. The speed of the Pop Flamer is also increased during the Super Mouse mode. Be careful of the special nasty called Herodon. Area automatically run to the Pop Flamer for extra. Is also increased. Super Mouse special nasty. He shoots, making him vulnerable to attack. Now, this description, I'd love to know if this was the first time they were talking about the game or what the game was. Obviously, we didn't read the Japanese advertisement flyer, and so what was the translation like? Is this an accurate translation for what Pop Flamer really is? At least this is what people read if you were the operator of Pop Flamer. All right, so other versions we have for this one, we got a bootleg of Naughty Boy conversion, and we have different protected or non-protected versions. We're playing the first. Let's go to Japan and go to the arcade. Play some Pop Flamer by Jalico, later by Stern, released first in the beginning of December 1982. Here we go. For this one, I actually want to be on the other side of the screen. There we go. So you can see a little bit more of the artwork, or the one that looks a lot like Frygar from Dig Dug. He really does. Look over there. It looks just like him. So the attract mode's going. It's letting us know, do we really want to put a quarter into this game to play? Based on all the other arcade games we've seen up to this point, I mean, this is the 642nd arcade game, and there's a lot of really good classics out there. Upon first glance, we are scrolling. The game isn't taking place all on one screen, which is kind of nice compared to the other Golden Age arcade games we've seen up to this point. It has a mouse as the protagonist, which we've seen plenty of mice up to this point. And even Mickey Mouse has only been appeared in Nintendo Game & Watch handhelds that we've seen as far as famous mice go. We have Super Mouse, we got Macho Mouse. There's lots of mice in video games up to this point. All right, so there's the point values. I didn't see a high score table. At the top, it's doing a temporary high score, but where's the put in your initials and show your high score? I don't see that. That's usually been a staple for all arcade games up to this point. All right, so let's put a coin in. And go. Japan Leisure Company, or Jalico, bring it on. We begin the game, it scrolls down. There I am. I'm the mouse. I can move. It's a four-way joystick, so I feel a little stilted in movement. But I can move around 4 different ways. All I gotta do is pop and pop as many balloons as I can. It wraps around one side of the screen to the other. If I drink my super drink, come on, drink it up. Oh, the frog's coming. Yikes. He almost got me. We'll burn him up. Looking good. Keep drinking. It's time consuming. Oh my gosh, when you turn into Super Mouse, it just vacuums everybody in. I didn't have to do anything. You just wait. Oh, and then you get super fast speed. Oh, for just a really short time. As usual, most arcade games have dip switches in the back where you can modify difficulty, speed, and different settings and so forth. This one is the same. I'm keeping it default. Sometimes on the show, I might mess with the dip switches to have more lives to last longer or show more of the game. I didn't do anything like that this time. I'm just keeping it stock, the normal. Oh, wait, there's the dreaded Herodon. That beam that he shoots out, if it touches you, you became temporarily mobilized or paralyzed for a specific amount of time. That balloon over there is laughing at me. So, of all the games we've played up to this point, it's not a shooter. That's what's also interesting. When I play Pop Flamer, we played other games that are a top-down kind of view. Well, actually, the perspective is also interesting. We're looking at Pop Flamer, and if I were to stand right here like this, you would think that we're playing a platform game. You know, like Donkey Kong. But we're not. Whenever you actually see the game in motion, then you realize, oh, he's not running and jumping on platforms. He can move anywhere he wants on the screen. It just happens to be that the mouse looks at you from the side. Alright, let's see if we can do this. What is that, a wall? Oh, okay, a wall of stuff to block us. Pop everything, and you notice we moved to another level, so they changed up a little bit. Oh, but we gotta make sure we pop. The movement of the mouse with the 4-way joystick feels a little stiff, if I was gonna be picky. At this point, though, you wouldn't find it as big a deal compared to the other games we played that are very athletic. You know, like a platform arcade games, Donkey Kong and things like that. You can kind of see that. Oh, no. Burn him. We're actually having a really good run. You can see the enemies can be a little unfair. Come on, drink up. Quick. You just have to hold the joystick, and eventually you just turn into the Super Mouse, eat them all up, and then... Where do we gotta go now? Oh, we have a barrier there. Now we go back to our normal speed. Burn. And your flame gets lower. Every time I fire my flame, notice how it's lower and lower than it was before? There's our last 2 balloons, I think. Let's see. There's one. Uh-oh, he paused us. Oh, man, and then he took us out. That's that temporary invulnerability. So it's definitely an action game. It's definitely an arcade game. It continues this loop of our classic arcade gaming loop. Oh, that's not the last one. Uh-oh. No, he still got me. What's the point of the enemy that freezes you in one spot if you're just going to die by the same enemy? He may as well just kill us. All right, let's see if we can get some of these. All right, so after you get the last balloon, you move on to the next level. It's, in a way, similar to a shooter, even though it's not a true shooter. It's what I believe to be the very first video game that you are being able to utilize a flamethrower. We have read about a flamethrower in, I believe, one text adventure game, and then we had an item that was a flamethrower in the game Alien on the Sinclair ZX81, but you didn't really see a flamethrower in action. It was more like an item for the strategy game that we played. But this one, this is an actual flamethrower. We are moving around and we are able to burn things with the flamethrower. So, Pop Flamer, that's really the biggest thing it has going for it. As far as the gameplay goes, it's really similar to a top-down arcade maze game. It does scroll slightly, but the controls are very simple to move around 4 different directions like you would in a Pac-Man style game, even though it's not really close or related to that. At this point, the games we've seen up to this point in history for video games, Naughty Boy comes to mind, which is by Jalico. This feels like they took the game Naughty Boy and then just added a mouse and the flamethrower because it feels the same. The control feels the same. The 4-way joystick, you're just not throwing things like you would in Naughty Boy. Ready? Coin in. I'm already seeing ratings being thrown out. What you saw, the 3 different levels at this point, that's basically it. And then it continues with that classic arcade gaming loop. You're not really seeing a whole lot more of what the game is like. Let's see if we can burn this frog. Nice. And then keep drinking. My power drink. Quick, drink. And then take them all out. Also, the flamethrower a little bit reminds me of the lasso mechanic in the game Lasso by SNK, that it goes out and comes back in, except we're not encircling enemies like we did with the lasso. So the flamethrower is not a direct shot, but it's basically close to what you'd see in a shooting style video game. Warp and Warp comes to mind, that Namco did, in the way that the mouse moves around, but that was only on one screen. So it has elements that just very reminiscent, or really similar to games we've seen before. Another one that comes to mind is Tranquilizer, that's in the arcade by Sega. That's same kind of concept. That still was all on one screen. And then, of course, Dig Dug with the pump that comes out, and you continue to push the button to pump. Flamethrower, though, you're just burning the enemies. You're just getting rid of them. You don't need to pump them up or wait like you did with Dig Dug. And so, part of that is what would make this fun. What in the world? The balloon just ran away. It is teasing us. I knew it. It wasn't just laughing at us. So, perspective of the game is kind of cool. It looks like a side view perspective if you were to think of it like a platformer. And the game does feel like it's a classic game. It's also doing the same music that Dig Dug does when you walk and move. Okay, so it didn't stop the music like Dig Dug. But it does have this feel that is, if you move around, you're going to make more music or tunes. So it's almost like they're taking lots of different elements from other games that we've seen before and trying something slightly new or slightly fresh. So it's just a nudge in a direction of something new or different. Let's see if we can get this before they show up. Quick, drink faster. Chug, chug, chug. Go. Always turns the other direction. There we go. Oh yeah, that's a lot of them. Nice. And you can get the other balloons. Wait, what? I don't know why it stopped there. Go down. Quick, quick, quick. Get the other balloons on the other side. Very nice. So when we went down, it didn't have a high score table. It's doing a temporary high score like it would do on some of the computer games that we played. It didn't have us put initials in. Look at this. Yeah, it just goes to this screen where it's showing the point values, and you move on to the next round, and then it just has that temporary high score at the top, but no high score table. I wonder if it's in a different version. That's a little rare. At this point, I expect every arcade game to have a high score table. The orientation of this video game is take that CRT and turn it on its side. So portrait view, that's why it's so long at the top like this. And at this point, there's been a lot of games, especially in the arcade, that are vertically oriented or portrait-oriented video games. Some of the more recent ones we've seen up to this point have been Minky Monkey, Hubert does this with the same screen, Goldbug, Zizix, and Zor, Bagman, and at home, all those Vectrex games that we've seen so far have been portrait-oriented or turn the monitor on its side, and I love it. All right, so this vertical scrolling, the 2D scrolling, is kind of interesting, but not really setting it apart because we've seen some better scrolling games even at home on home computers. The generating enemies, though, is kind of interesting. I feel like generating enemies in video games have snuck up on us. The very first time we saw an enemy generator would be something like Pac-Man, but I never pointed it out. But notice here we have, again, enemies are coming from one source or location. We just don't have the ability to destroy them. I keep making comparisons to a generating enemies because eventually we're going to get Gauntlet. And it really is lots of games that are incorporating this trope of let's have a place where enemies come from or generate from, but there's very rarely where we have a chance to destroy where those enemies are being generated from. All right, can we get some drinks? Let's do it. So next year on Sega's new home console, we're going to see the port of this game. We have lots of ports, by the way, of lots of other games coming up at home next year in 1983. So in 1982, we're getting more arcade releases that are going to be ported a lot. We haven't even finished out the year. And this is another one that we're going to see from the arcade and then coming home. So we've already had a lot of ratings been thrown out in the chat. I can see over in the live show, Paul saying 3 to 3.5. Jeremiah 3.5. Oh, you can see 4 stars for this. Nice. Mike saying 3.5. Yeah, it is worth a try for a few times just because it's not exactly copying another game. It's taking small elements from other games and trying to do its own thing, something unique. It does have the Jalico feel where it's another developer messing around with the game, and I don't really call it a Jalico game. I just call it whatever developer they used to make the game. And then I see also a 3.5 from Scott, 4 stars from Charlie. And again, the ratings that I'm saying from the chat are based on every arcade game you could play up to this point or see up to this point. They're rating the game based on that. December 1982. Marshall's just thrown out an average 3-star rating. M. Tiskey's saying 3.5. Yes, and the song or the notes at the end, it does sound a little bit like Mooncresta. Marshall's saying in the chat. I like that it's giving us some tunes or music to hear, and again, a little bit reminiscent of Dig Dug. Someone brought up Proto Kirby. Actually, on the balloon popping kind of reminds me of Proto Bubble Bobble. But I'm going to pretend none of those exist because it's December 1982. So of all the games you could play up to this point in the arcade, I would say Pop Flamer is not just your average arcade game. So I don't want to say it's just a 3. I did see a lot of 3.5s and 4s. So majority of the chat tonight is saying it's an above average arcade game here in December 1982. We are going to see it in 1983 officially, in North America, but I'm going to go with 3.5 stars. above average for all the games you could play up to this point in the arcade. Not super incredible or impressive, not pushing new ground, but worth a play a few times. All right, after that, let's see what our next game is. It's time to go home and play on our Atari home computer, the 400 or the 800. This is Kicks, released first officially at home. Here's the box for Kicks. I'm so excited. We originally saw Kicks in the arcades October 1981. And here it is on the Atari home computer, the 442nd game we've seen for this home computer. The box is classic, and I believe it's a later box because this looks like possibly the style of the 1983 Atari Program Exchange boxes. But I mean, look at the artwork. It is 80s all over it. We had a line pattern, rows in the background, played the arcade at home, and it's made in cartridge style, which is kind of cool. This was done by Threshold Research, the fourth time we've seen this development company. The other three games that they've done have been in the arcades. They did Kicks, originally in the arcades, Colony 7, and Electric Yo-Yo. The original publisher that published it in Japan was Taito, the 12th time we've seen any company involved with Taito or any video game involved with them. They brought us games like Stratovox, Zarzan, Lock and Chase, Space Dungeon, Cram, Jungle Hunt, or Pirate Pete, and Wild Western, just to name a few. Oh, I'm sorry, Taito America. 7th time we've seen Taito America. In all Taito, though, of all the games we've seen up to this point, this is the 76th game that Taito has been involved with that we've seen. In the arcade, they've pumped out 72 games that we've seen up to this point. Arcade games like Avenger, Gunfight, Seawolf, Space Invaders, Lunar Rescue, Lupin the Third, Crazy Climber, Fitter or Roundup, Jungle King, Frontline, and this is the second time that we've seen anything by Taito or Taito's been involved with at home. The only other thing that they've done at home that we've seen at this point has been Space Invaders that's been brought home on the Atari 2600, the Atari home computer, and the Atari 5200. So Atari basically has the publishing rights for Taito's things, and this is the same for Kicks. All right, let's flip it over the back. You don't just play Kicks, you feel it. I always called it Quicks before I've been corrected by the commercials and ads where they say Kicks, just like you're going to kick a ball. QIX. Now feel the thrill of the arcade game at home. So I really want to see how they do the conversion to this because it was a very original arcade game, very different arcade game. Even maybe pseudo puzzle. I don't really call it like a full puzzle game, but it is very interesting and it was fresh and it was new. Let's see where they can do that. All right, what other artwork do we have for Kicks? Coming home. Look at the asterisk at the top. That means it was originally Taito that did this one. And Atari is the one that did the publishing for this game. This is the 21st Atari published video game on the Atari home computer, not by Atari Program Exchange, so not by APX, the 21st Atari only game. There's an ad you would have seen in the new released Kicks. Exciting adaptation of the popular arcade game challenges you to box in Kicks. The Spinning Helix. I don't think I've heard Kicks referred that way, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then besides the box, we have another ad with a later ad, I might say. So Kicks is in the middle. We're not going to be checking out Atari speed reading at the bottom anytime new. But at the top, look at that. E.T. Phone Home. I heard about this from a commercial. Someone told me it was real, but I still don't believe it. We haven't seen it yet. E.T. Phone Home, an E.T. game for the Atari home computer. I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. And there's the cartridge. We're going to pop into our Atari. Make sure it says left cartridge, I believe. So the right side is for basic, but you got to make sure you put it in the right slot. And some fan art for Kicks. Oh, so cool. With an example of the screenshot. So here's the manual for Kicks. Tell us how to play, even though we've played this one before. Kicks by originally Taito America. 1, 2, 3 Kicks. There you go. Insert the cartridge. Left slot. Yep. Explains what to do. I love these manuals for the Atari home computer. Just a simple concept, having great screenshots telling you how to play, because this computer was really user-friendly. Just like we were going to do with a console. You put a cartridge in, you put your controller in, and then it explains the buttons on the side. Select and start. You can have a joystick, and you can do joysticks 1 and joysticks 2. However, this one's an arcade hot seat style game. You don't play Kicks at the same time. It would be just like you would do in the arcade. Don't look back. Something may be gaining on you. Wait, who's Leroy Satchel Paige? Wait, Wait, okay, it's the Satchel Paige, like baseball, right? Where are they referencing someone in the manual? Was that really his name? Was his first name Leroy? It explains what the two-player game is. The option key only lets you change the seconds measured at the top of the screen before the sparks increases. So very limited game options. Start key, system reset key, and spacebar. As usual on the Atari computer, lets you pause the game. It's like pausing an arcade game in action. Yeah, Mike, full color manual. Looks pretty slick, right? I like it. Yeah, no matter how many video games you played, you've never played anything like Kicks. No matter how many times you play Kicks, you'll never play the same game twice. I guess that's kind of true for most video games. It explains the object of the game right here. Kicks is just like we saw in the arcades. You're trying to generate or capture areas of the screen. And then if you capture a certain percentage, then you move on to the next level. It also explains what the sparks is. All the time that you're drawing different things, little sparks will run on your trail. They'll run around your patterns. If they run across your marker, they wipe it out. The red line of the screen is shrinking, marking a predetermined time. Man, they're making it pretty specific. When you play it yourself, you kind of get the idea. Then it explains what the fuse is for, and then we got a page on the strategy. This is a very well done manual. Very, very slick, very professional, and it just looks quality. This feels like you're going to be buying a really premium product. If the Kicks is blocking the center of the screen, draw a box. That's the strategy. That's what everyone, at least the really good players of Kicks do. Just keep drawing small boxes. If it's penetrating a small area, and then they even have pictures of the Kicks or the helix flying around. Sometimes it covers one half of the screen. It's time to gamble and try the box the other side. You can never predict what the Kicks will do. Never trust a whirling helix. Another random quote in the manual. It also says you can never cross your own line. Don't cross your own line. And then listen to the game sounds. Everything that happens has its own signal. That's pretty cool. I want to hear what the game sounds are like. So scoring and screen display are right here. That breaks down the threshold. You need to cover a certain amount of percent of the screen. Explains all the boxes here. And then the one-player and two-player game at the top. Cool. All right, we're ready to play. We know how to play some Kicks. This one has different alternate versions, and then it's going to be released later on the Atari 5200 that I've heard is better than this version, but this is the first. Let's pop in that cartridge and play some Kicks by Taito America Corporation, Threshold Research, released by Atari in the beginning of December 1982. Published by Atari. They know how to get it. All right, we're in. I'm actually going to play a two-player game because it has an interesting multiplayer hot seat style. All right, so I'm going to go with a two-player game. I got my two joysticks plugged in, and we're going to say start. I'm not going to change any of the timing, and we're in. I moved my little cursor around. I got my Atari VCS joystick plugged in, and whenever you're ready, you just hold the red button down and start drawing on the screen. If the Kicks touches your line while you're drawing, then you'll lose the life. Oh, you don't have to hold the button down. Never mind. Someone who didn't read the manual. No buttons. Just move the joystick. Just move it out and then start drawing and capturing some of the screen if you can. Let's see if we can go all the way down. No, and he got us. And that's how you lose your life. Now, this is what the play mode is interesting. Whenever we play multiplayer and I die just like this, it doesn't go to the second player. It keeps going. I'm still playing as the first player. In fact, I keep going until all my lives are out, and then the second player takes over, which is a little bizarre because hot seat multiplayer, like arcade-style games, are usually when you have died, then the other player gets a turn. Nope, not here. They might as well have just done a first-player game, and then you handed the controller after you were done with all your lives. So very, very strange. All right, we go down. We're going to capture lots of points. Go, go, go. That's it. All right, looking pretty good. You can see I've covered about 60%. I need 75 to move on to the next level. But then, like I'm describing about multiplayer mode, the second player who has their joystick plugged in and is waiting for their turn right now has to wait for all the first player lives to be done and then game over. And now, here you go. Player two's on. Now they can play. Why have a two-player mode when you got to wait that long? We want to be able to switch around like it's in the arcade. All right, let's take a gamble. Go. Yeah, that's it. Very high risk. And over in the chat, Scott's saying he's decent at Kicks. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get used to. Very, very different Loved it in the arcades. It was original, fresh, and it just works really well for something new and special. And here on the show, since Chronologically Gaming, we play every single video game. We're always looking for something that's new, fresh, and different. After playing hundreds of clones or copies of Pac-Man and Space Invaders and shooters, it's really cool seeing this. Oh, we got the bonus. Moving on to the next screen. Sound effects are really, really nice. Oh, now the kicks is flying. Wow. Capture a little bit more here. Oh, already out. Playing as the second player. So we refer to these video games as grid capture games. This marks the 26th grid capture game that we played on Chronologically Gaming, and that's all systems all over the world. Some of the really popular grid capture games we've seen so far have been Amadar is a really good example. On the Atari home computer, there's Jeepers Creepers. The arcade has Pepper 2, Radar Zone, Macho Mouse, just to name a few examples. At this point, we've seen 2 different games clone kicks or copy kicks. This is official kicks that we're seeing right here. But we've seen Arex that's available on the TRS-80, which is like a kicks clone or a kicks variant. Do we get a game over or are we still in? Yeah, go, we're still in. Another one we've seen was Night Flight for the Pyulta, or Tommy Tuner as it's known in North America. And that's it. As far as like clones or copies, there's only been those 2. This is the first official kicks besides the arcade original that we've seen. It has that classic arcade gaming loop, if you can keep going. And then we see you got 2 game overs, so let's keep going with a 1-player only game and then reset it. So cool, yep. And then Scott's bringing up Crush Roller. That's to do Crush Roller or Make Tracks. Kind of would be like that, where you're painting the screen, you're trying to cover a certain amount. This one, though, is playing very well. And it's very impressive how they've ported this when you consider the other video game ports we've seen. An excellent, excellent port. You're controlling a crosshair or a cursor, which is a little interesting. The control, really simple. With the joystick, just move your cursor around, draw as much as you can. They have the temporary high score that they keep at the top of the screen. If the manual's any indication, you can tell it's a very quality, very good title, especially for a home computer. Where we at 58, 60, looking pretty good. There we go, got it. Get the bonus, and then move on to the next round, where kicks goes even faster. Well, for all the games that are on all systems so far that are like this game, I would say that this game, this port, is better than Disco Number 1 that we played in the arcade. I'd say this is better than Hot Shocker that we played in the arcade. I'd say this game is better than Triple Punch that we played in the arcade. I'd say that this is better than Jolly Jogger that we've played in the arcade. I would say this is better than Pepper 2. Sort of. Close to around the same level of quality as Pepper 2 that we saw in the arcade. I would say this is better than Amadar, at least kicks, just because I'm a little more partial to kicks and its gameplay than Amadar in the arcade. I would say this is better than Beezer that we played in the arcade. Maybe even better than Arex on the TRS-80. Yeah, this one is a very, very well done arcade-style game for a home computer, and a very well done port. I'd say this is even better than Kid Grid that we've seen on the Atari home computer, or Time Runner. Now, there's a really good Amadar variant of on the Atari home computer called Jeepers Creepers. I'd say this is close to being, better than even Jeepers Creepers, which was really good. It was like Amadar, but they had power-ups. It was really cool. So check out Jeepers Creepers if you want to see a really good grid capture style game. I would say this game is better than Night Flight that we played on the Pyulta, and that was like, it was just like kicks with a different coat of paint. And we're going to see this one next year, 1983, at some point on the Atari 5200. So a different version of this, and I've told it's been better than this one, but this is really, really good. Very, very polished video game. So of all the video games you could play across all home computers at this point, not just on the Atari 400, Atari 800, but a computer video game, one you could play at home, what would you rate Kicks, the first time it was ported home. Over in the chat, I see Scott throwing out a 4-star rating, which means he says this is excellent. This is a very well done or above average video game. If you think this is pretty average for all the games you could play on all home computers, you'd be somewhere around the 3-star range. Maybe you're not a fan of Kicks, you know. I would never go as low and saying this is a bad game down in the 2-star range, and definitely not a broken game in the 1-star range. However, if you think this is one of the best games you could play across all home computers, all over the world, then you'd be somewhere in the 5-star range. I see Mike throwing out 4 stars, and then 4 stars for Mark, and then, oh, Marshall's saying 5. Well, actually, I wouldn't go as high as 5, but I will say this is very, very well done. I'm going to go with 4.5 stars for Kicks. The first time it was ported home, this is one of the best games you could play across all home computers. Kicks is very, very nice. All right, after that phenomenal release and a really fun time, let's see what our next game is. It's time to go back to the arcades and play Quantum, one I've never heard of before. I'm not familiar with Quantum. Let's check it out together. Here's the advertising flyer for Quantum by Atari. Why haven't I seen this in the arcades? The advertising flyer is fantastic. It looks like we're welding something. This game is only found in the arcades, the 643rd arcade game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. This hasn't been ported anywhere or can't be seen anywhere else. However, there is a recent recharged version of this game. So if you want to play something similar or like this, then check out that version. But right now in December 1982, this is something very original. The front of the advertising flyer is very nice. Oh, we got color vector graphics. I'm already excited. Looking at the back of the advertisement flyer, they say it's a fantastic world of Quantum. Totally new, high-energy video experience from Atari, where players strobe a subatomic world to capture stray atoms without being destroyed by deadly particles. Already sounds otherworldly. It incorporates a unique quadra-scan video graphics with a MIDI trackball, which we've seen this implement of destruction on Atari before. It has the scoring options down at the bottom. Really a lot of text when you think about it for an advertisement flyer with 2 screenshots at the top. Oh, and Charlie's already saying this game's amazing. Oh yes, great surprise, right? There's the arcade cabinet for Quantum. Wow, that looks incredible. The grid is where it's at, man. You got to advertise games with more grids. Tron showed us that, and it's all over it. There's another really bad example of the arcade cabinet. Inside, there's the arcade PCB for Quantum. And the control panel. Oh, looking good. There's that trackball. This one's another arcade hot seat style multiplayer game. So if you play with 2 people, like you can see, push the button over there, you're just going to take turns going back and forth using that trackball. This one was developed by GCC, General Computer Corporation. It's the 5th time we've seen this company bringing us games like Miss Pac-Man that we saw in the arcade, Vanguard for the Atari 2600, Phoenix on the Atari 2600, and Kangaroo on the Atari home computer. This one is Atari. Atari is here. The control is trackball only. And there it is. Atari's emblazoned on the front for Quantum. This is the 171st Atari published game that is not Atari Program Exchange. This is Atari's 72nd game that we've seen in the arcades thus far, bringing us really hot titles like Black Widow, Millipede, Liberator, Gravatar, Space Duel, Tempest, and other games that they just published from other people. Atari's also published Time Pilot, Pole Position, Kangaroo, and Dig Dug from other companies. Atari is so hot right now. I love it. There's the example of the screenshot. Oh man, the color vector graphics have already sold it to me. Here's the manual that the operator would have seen when you got it. Now, Atari operator manuals are really classy. Nice, they have color graphics. Look at this. What I want to know is, how did they describe Quantum in the manual? They have the release dates. They also explain a little bit of the technology. Atari always brings up something new or cool. There's the copyright and all the different parts. Yep, make sure you don't shock yourself. We are not going to be setting up an arcade cabinet. We're not going to be assembling anything. Don't worry about that. We just want to know, yeah, we can go back make sure you have all the parts. Right, there's the new features or technology that Atari brings to the table, at least for the physical arcade cabinet. Explains how to set up the game, voltage, switch locations. Got it. Select the option switches, yes, and then gameplay. Quantum is a 1 or 2 player game with a color XY video display. I always found this interesting. I've always referred to these games as vector-based graphics games, but ever since Cinematronics first did a vector-based game, they all called them XY video display. Where and when did vector graphics come into to play? Like, was that a buzzword from a magazine or something? Because as we're reading all these manuals, they always refer to, at least the operator manuals, these are XY video display games. They don't say vector graphics anywhere. So where did that buzzword come from? So the point of the game is to capture deadly atomic particles without being destroyed by them. The whole game takes place in a subatomic world. One of the first times we've had a video game have this setting. To capture particles, the player uses the MIDI trackball to control a comet that sparkles. When the player rotates the MIDI trackball, the comet leaves a tail or line behind it. The player must draw a complete circle around the deadly particle to destroy it. Quantum has 5 possible modes of operation, and these are the usual ones: attract mode, select mode, play, high score, self-test. It has the usual arcade modes, and the play mode explains about what's to expect when you're in the game. Attract mode's usual, trying to entice people to put a coin in and play. And then they got the high score mode, and they have hints, on the operator manual. Circle 2 or more objects for double points. Capture all the nuclei to advance to the next wave, and move the trackball quickly to keep the tail from disintegrating, and to produce a longer tail. Avoid deadly red bonds between the nuclei. Okay, great. And there's the scoring system. Man, oh man. We just talked about quality again. We saw kicks and the manual they brought on the home computer. And look at this in the arcade. This right here, it would be just fantastic. Just have the cabinet. If the paperwork and the instructions are this nice, then you know the game's good. All right, we won't read any further. The other versions we have are just a prototype version, which we will not play. We're going to play the first real one. Let's go to the arcade and play Quantum, published by Atari in the beginning of December 1982. So excited for this one. Let's do it. Oh, man. I love it. And it's telling us how to play. Thank you, thank you. Capture the atomic particles. Nice. Gives us the points. Avoid deadly particles or capture them for extra points. Thanks, Atari. They're telling us how to do it. Wait a second. Look at this. It's got a little tutorial. I can move the trackball right now. Oh, that's a cool idea. Just a few seconds, it allowed me to move the trackball. And for someone, I'm sure you're familiar, when you go to the arcades and you didn't have any money, you would try to do whatever you could to mess around with the game. So that's a nice touch. They give you a few seconds to play the trackball. So you have a little bit. I can't do anything right now, but that's nice. It's like a semi-tutorial. I love that. All right, let's go in. I want to put a coin in and see what this is like. And hit it. All right, level selection. Oh, nice. Just like Tempest. Very cool. This is really, really cool. So moving the trackball around, you roll the ball, and you are essentially drawing this spark. So what you see here, I am drawing on the screen, and I'm already just having fun moving my cursor around. That's so bizarre. If you want to call it a cursor or whatever. All right, let's circle it. All right, circle it around. Nice. Whoa, this is awesome. I'm already just having fun with the interface. All right, so all you got to do is circle around the different objects. So I circle around the green one, circle around the red, and you're trying to capture subatomic particles. So gameplay is very simple and very fluid because at this point, Atari has mastered the trackball. At home, the trackball is almost about to be released for the Atari 5200. They keep saying it's coming out soon. But you're going to be able to play trackball at home. Oh man, this is awesome. I love this. I think it went all caterwonky on me. There we go. Oh man, I love this. This is awesome. Smooth, works great. And it's introducing new, there's a different enemy type right there. Go higher and higher. Wow. It's awesome. Sound effects are so cool too. And you gotta be really quick, I bet, right? Yep. Now, wait, what's stopping me from just doing the whole screen? Can I go really fast and make it go all across the whole screen? Let's see. Nope, just don't touch into it or you'll lose a life. Whoa. Quantum made the whole universe shift. This is what happens when you plug in a trackball to your computer. Says, oh, you're using a mouse? Okay, let's just let you control everything on the computer. Oh, this is awesome. So you can circle your initials. Ready? I want a C. Give me a C. Give me a H. You have to do it really fast for timing-wise. And there it is. I thought I was going to be able to put in my whole name like or draw a signature like Betty did. But I guess not. All right, let's do it again. Put a coin in. And go. Let's kick it up a notch. Let's go to 3 now. Sweet. So just make sure you don't touch them. But man, oh man, it is so cool to play a game that is controlling this way. And as usual, the color vector graphics are fantastic. They pop. And I really can't do the game justice with how good it would look for you to play it yourself. So find an arcade and play Quantum on real XY video display. Yes, I got all 3. That's awesome. If you move it fast enough, you just got to be really quick. Look. Whoa, see, I almost made a whole circle. I think you can encircle the whole screen and just knock them all out. Let's see. No? Wow, yep, do them all. That's so cool. But you got to take the risk to make sure you don't touch anything. All right, so we would still consider this game or call this a grid capture video game, even though we're kind of off the grid. Wait, I can do it. Wait, I can do it. How do I draw? How do I draw? Push one player. Oh man. Okay, I see. What? Look at this. I can draw my initials. So you can put in your initials. I got 17 seconds. How do I remove player 2 when you're done? Whoa. It lets you sign your name. The very first time we've seen an arcade game do that. What? That's amazing. All right, let's put in these 2. Look, and it keeps that as your... So you can sign your name for the high score. That is genius. How many other we've played so many other trackball games. We should have already seen something like this, but I'm already a big fan of that. That's awesome. All right, so yeah, we're seeing the attract mode again. I want to keep going. This is loads of fun. Way more than I thought it would be. All right, let's start back at level 1. So this is the 27th grid capture style video game, even though we're off the grid, so to speak. It features a level select, just like it does with Tempest. It's kind of like we're playing a drawing game, if you think about it, because we're drawing different things on the screen. We played drawing and painting games before, very little, but this one more is how cool the gameplay is, how fresh the idea is, too. The vector-based graphics video games, I love them. This is the 37th vector-based graphics game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. We've played 30 of them in the arcades so far, and at home, the rest have been on the Vectrex. Black Widow's in the arcades. That's a color vector-based game. Zektor, Gravitar, TaxScan, Space Duel, which is kind of like the sequel to Asteroids, Boxing Bugs, Eliminator, Space Fury, and Tempest, just to name a few. Tempest is, I mean, the most iconic of the ones you could be playing right now in the arcades. Man, you got to be ready to, and this takes a lot of focus to move the trackball, roll it around, and it does feel that way. We got a new enemy type. So cool. And you see the subatomic particles just fly away because they're not hovering around them. Can we get it? Yes. Oh, bonds between nuclei are deadly when red. Oh, so every time we pass by, it gets redder and redder, I guess. Let's see if we can just... Oh, don't touch them, though. Okay, we made it to level 10. Let's see here. Nice. So fun. All right, so yeah, if you pass through, I see. It lets you pass through a few times. If you pass through the bond too many times, then eventually it'll go away. Oh, and look, my trail is going away faster now. I think we can do it. Yikes. So cool. That's it. Oh, that was a good one. It almost feels like modern day people would see this and think I'm playing, with a mouse. to play the game, and playing with the trackball it feels very different. But when you play this as a mouse-style game, we can put it in again. Let's see if I can draw a better CG. Oh, and you press player 2 when you're done. Okay, so you push start, and then does it let us? Yeah, there we go. And you can put in your initials after that. Awesome. I didn't put in the whole thing, but that works. That is awesome. This is the 27th video game that's controlled with a trackball, or the option to play a video game with a trackball. It's the 21st video game we've seen in the arcades that's controlled with a trackball. The rest of the video games controlled with a trackball we've seen on the Atari 5200, unless you had some kind of third-party trackball from console. Oh, the nuclei here, the bonds. Some of the more popular trackball video games or controlled video games we've seen have been Centipede and Millipede. Slither was available in the arcades to play. Magic Worm, which is, both of those are kind of like Centipede. And then we've also seen Strike Bowling by Taito as more recently trackball controlled. Did I touch? Oh, I did, darn. Beezer was also trackball controlled. Future Flash, Liberator, Reactor, Kick, which was you on the clown, that was trackball controlled, and Missile Command, of course, way back in the day. One of the first ones we saw was Atari Soccer, Basketball, and Baseball. The sports games had it. The crosshair control works really well. And this is something that, why didn't this get cloned and copied? Because I didn't see a lot of games that were like this. Oh, that was a good run. Go. Oh, I love this. Yeah, very fun. The tutorial presentation is kind of nice whenever you first start the game. It reminds me of games we saw. Bubbles had a tutorial, and Lasso had a little tutorial for you to use, which is nice. And I believe this is the first game that takes place in the subatomic world, even though it's not scientifically accurate. And in a way, the game reminds me of Reactor. It's kind of like the game Reactor, where it's a science game, but it has no educational value. You know, it's like based on science or pseudoscience, and then it kind of just does its own thing. Ready, go. Oh man, now this wouldn't work. Couldn't you just write in, you know, FU on the high score table? Do they really allow you the freedom to put it in whenever you want? Kind of risky, Atari. CH. It's going to let me do it. Yeah, we got some of the high scores. Awesome. So there you go. That is your first experience or the first taste of Quantum. Man, Quantum's pretty fun. Of all the games you could play in the arcade right now, this is very fresh. This is very new. It is a little nuanced, though. So I'm looking over the chat. I see Jeremiah saying, of all the games you could play in the arcade right now, a 4.5-star rating, which is above average for everything up to this point. M. Tiskey saying 4.5 stars with an asterisk. Maybe that means not 4.5 stars. Mike saying 4.5. Mark saying 5. A 5-star game for all the games you could play. You mean this one's going up against Donkey Kong, and it's going to take Donkey Kong. It's going to take Burger Time out. You're saying that's going to be better? You're saying this is better than all those other vector-based games? This is Tempest level? Brad saying 4.5 stars. Mike saying 4.5. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Marshall's 5. Okay. In honor of Charlie. I love it. Yeah, this is one of the best games you could play in the arcades right now. I don't know if I want to say as high as 5, just because there's other video games that have more lasting appeal. Plus, if you were to play this in the arcades, that trackball probably isn't going to give you the best experience or control. They're always usually a little slimy or sweaty. It's not like, you know, you have this in your house or something like that. Brian's saying 4 stars. So I'm going to go with, we'll still say 4.5 stars for Quantum. It is an exceptional game. It's one of the best games you could play in the arcades right now. I wouldn't put it at the same level as some of the best influential video games thus far. That's pretty good, though. All right, that's where we got to put all the video game playing on pause, or we ran out of quarters in the arcades. I appreciate everyone that's here for the live show in December 1982, telling me how you would rate all these video games, or what you would say for the game releases we saw. Next time on Chronologically Gaming, tank games ported to home consoles, raft riding on your Atari, Racing on your TRS-80, a Rat Hotel on your VIC-20, and the next game in the Real Sports series. That's it for today, and like I always say, you don't just play video games, you feel video games. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and be a Chronologically Gaming influencer, rating the games as we play them. This video wouldn't be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and Main. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every video game. We have links down below that give more information on the games we played this episode, as well as our Discord and Patreon. There's a link called All the Games We Have Played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.